Hey everyone, welcome back here to the channel. So yesterday I did a video, not sure if you watched it or not. It was kind of just an update of where I was and everything else and what's been going on and why I haven't posted in a while. So day after, this is Friday, and so this is kind of like another one of Tom's rants. So anyways, we got some snow here last night, and another 10 centimeters, I don't know, 4 inches, something like that, 4.5 inches. And it's just a pain in the butt. So, you're trying to run a boat shop in Canada, and, you're kind of, you have winter work and everything lined up, but this is kind of a reason why it takes so much longer to get anything done. And basically why I shut down for the winter. And, anyways, I'm just going to keep going here. But, so, yeah, I have to shut down in the winter because basically you don't make any money. Over years and years of doing this, I've just realized that it's easier and costs less money if you just shut down for the winter. For the fact here that you're fighting Mother Nature, and we've been fairly lucky this year, but when it snows every second day, and it's a 4-inch, 10 centimeter snowfall, whatever, anyways, it just creates an issue where, okay, first of all, we have two businesses that I mentioned to you yesterday. And so first of all, in the morning, we got to make sure that my wife is plowed out and she's able to see clients, during the day. Because in the winter, she's basically our income. So, and then here I am, having to clear the yard there. And then I'm having to come here to the shop and clean this place out. So you're probably wondering, well, why do you plow the yard in the winter if you're shut down? Well, you know that I do winter projects and fiberglass work. I try to do all in the winter, and any big repairs basically. So I try to keep the yard somewhat accessible, and it's also built into my insurance policy that I have to have the yard accessible. I have to maintain it. If there is ever a fire or anything like that, I want to make sure I'm doing everything that I have to do, my due diligence, that, any emergency crews have access to the yard. So, I have to do it anyway, so I might as well try to be here and, mitigate some of the costs of operating through the winter and, try to put a few bucks in my pocket. However, it's always a fight and losing battle scenario because, first of all, it's costing more in fuel, obviously. And we're talking about, fuel just for the truck itself, to warm it up in the morning before I go anywhere. And then, then I'm plowing with the truck then as well. So obviously you're using more fuel. You're not charging anything for this, so it's cost out of your pocket, it's cost of doing business. But then you have your heating costs, and that's gone up substantially this year. So anybody on natural gas in Canada with an Enbridge account, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm not knocking Enbridge by any means. I've been a customer of them for a while, and it was, and probably still is, one of the cheapest ways to heat your home is with natural gas or your business. But that's the age that we're living in right now, where everything is going up. So anyways, more hydro, obviously, because you're having to run the furnace. You're using gas to heat the furnace, or heat the shop, or your house. So it's just added costs here, right? So anyways, I guess back to case in point here is I'm almost up for outlawing you know, even living in Canada during the winter. And I know there's going to be people out there that enjoy the snow and all this other stuff, but I mean, at the end of the day, you know, from my perspective, and probably because of what I do, I mean, I guess it's not a big deal if you just get up in the morning and go to work and what have you, or you don't work in the winter and it doesn't matter, right? It takes you all day to shovel your yard. It's no big deal. But when you have a set schedule, especially for my wife, for her business, and, you know, she has to be operational, and then, you know, now it's a drive in for me to have to clear my yard. And, you know, it's just not that easy. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a perspective here of what I'm dealing with. So just to kind of give you an idea here of what I'm dealing with. I mean, so the yard's pretty much full of boats, right? It's as full as it can be that I'm still able to get in here and, you know, try to do some stuff. But I mean, so this stuff here, this is frozen in until the spring. I mean, none of this is moving. This boat right here, that's my chum's boat who's going to be going to North Carolina with me, so this one's accessible. But I mean, here I am at the back of the shop, and, you know, just drop the blade and plow it. It sounds pretty simple, right? But I mean, yeah, I can move the tractor here and it'll get me a little bit, but then I have to get up here. I got to shovel around the door, snow blow, what have you. And then we're going to go up here to the front. So here we are up at the front here, and I mean, this is the front extension, and I mean, we're not totally complete here with that right now. So, you know, there's no walls here, so the snow obviously blows in when it's light. And I mean, this is kind of what I deal with. You know, the front gate's open or whatever else, but here's the yard again. And as you can see, the snowbanks are piling up and what have you. So I guess what I'm getting at here is that it's more than just dropping the blade and, you know, keeping everything clear. You know, I'm tight quarters here. I'm just over an acre, I think, of property here. So I mean, like 1.34 or something like that. So, you know, by the time you fill it up with your boats for the season for storage, and, you know, I try to keep from the front gate open to the back door so I can get in and out with stuff. You know, it's difficult enough in itself. There's a lot of maneuvering around and snow blowing and shoveling that has to take place. And I mean, we just got, again, like I said, 10 centimeters, 4 inches, whatever. And that's not bad. When you get, you know, 15 plus centimeters, so we're talking 7 inches plus of heavy, wet snow, that just makes your life miserable. And yes, I do have a backhoe. The backhoe is not here at the shop right now. That is at home for a whole entirely other reason. But anyway, so that's where that is right now. So this year I'm, you know, because I don't float my own stuff, because the cost of that is just horrendous, I just get somebody to do it for me. But so my snowbanks are building up more this year, and, you know, we've been fortunate too, where we haven't had a lot of snow and we've had lots of thaws and everything in between. So it's helped out. So I guess any point that I'm trying to make here is, if you're wondering why boat shops shut down for the winter, you know, northern states and Canada especially, it's basically because of this. And, you know, this is a smaller scale, but it's all scalable. So, you know, a bigger shop is just going to have bigger the headaches. And, you know, it's always been a challenge to keep marine techs and, you know, like technicians and staff on for the winter. And, you know, like spring and fall usually is our money-making time of year, and you take those numbers from there, but then you spread it out over 12 months, and you sometimes wonder, especially when you have staff. So back when I had staff, I mean, you're trying to maintain your staffing level, but at the end of the day, you kind of have to, you know, from a business perspective, you have to look at this and say, you know, all the money that we've made now over the course of the fall or over the course of the season, which works out to be, God, 5 to 6 months max. Like, you're talking, nobody really starts boating anything up here till about middle of May. And that's just for the fishermen and women. So anybody fishing, I think the third Saturday in May is when it opens up here for pike and pickerel. So you're talking, say, half of May. So you got June, July, August, September. So that's your recreational boaters, for 4 months. And then you got October, for the diehards, and the marinas close up here about middle of October. So what's that? 5 months. 5 months is your crunch time for boating up here. That's in my area. So the further you go north, it's probably a lot less. And as you go down south, you extend your boating by a couple of weeks here and there. So maybe 6 months in southern Ontario on the Great Lakes and in the Toronto area. So so back to the whole operating in winter thing, it's definitely not worth it by any means. Your days are longer, you're burning more fuel, your costs have gone up, and you're making no money. And if you have staff that you're trying to maintain inside the shop, if you're lucky, you break even. More times than not, though, you run negative for 4 months, basically. January, February, March, April, things start picking up. Part of December, you're shut down over the holidays. So you're running negative for 3 to 4 months, basically. So, yeah, just kind of a little bit of insight here into the whole marine world. And that brings us back to, everybody's hurting for staff right now. But it's especially hard in an industry like this. And it's not just this industry, but I'm using this industry because this is the industry that I have experience in. And it's really tough to maintain staff. Some people don't mind being laid off for the winter or laid off for 3 months. You go to hire them, like, yeah, no, perfect. I don't mind being laid off. I can go ice fishing. I can go snowmobiling, all this. The problem is when people start sitting at home, and about 4 weeks in, up to 4 weeks, they're getting things done, they're enjoying it and whatever else, and then all of a sudden they start twiddling their thumbs and, they start thinking a little bit, and then all of a sudden, they look elsewhere, and then come springtime, they're like, oh, sorry, I picked up a job somewhere else, or I'm doing this now, or I didn't like staying at home, or whatever else. So, huge challenge. And that's probably why we are having a hell of a time trying to recruit and maintain marine technicians and even staffing. I mentioned in my last video that shops are starting to close down on that because people are getting to their age of retirement. Property value is way up. Businesses were selling like crazy there over the last 2 years. So they're like, it's time to get out. And I'm done playing this and whatever else. So, going forward, we're going to be in a crunch here, I think, and I don't even know what the next, 5 years has in store, basically, for the industry as a whole, for the whole sake that things are starting to go electric. And, what happens then, we've had a number of boating companies that have, started to launch product and whatever else, but what we were really waiting for in North America was for when Mercury, because, I mean, face it, whether you like Mercury or not, there's not a lot of outboard companies out there to choose from anymore. And we were just waiting for them to drop the ball that they were starting to experiment and launch, electric outboards. And sure enough, this year they launched the 7.5 horsepower Avatar outboard motor. And I mean, so if they've launched that already, it's been an R&D for a couple of years. I think last year they launched maybe like a 3.5 horse or something like that down at the Miami Boat Show, but don't quote me on that. But it was just a matter of time, and I can guarantee you that now that they've launched that they're already working on the intermediate lineup of outboard engines being electric. So, for guys like me, when I started in the trade, and even up to this date, I still deal with carburetors. You bring a carburetor to anybody younger than me, and they're like, what's a carburetor? You bring a carburetor to anybody in the automotive industry that just works as a technician in a shop, they don't even take it in school. So what's a carburetor? Basically, we know that's on the engine, but we don't know how it works and how to fix it, basically. So this whole gasoline engine thing, whether or not you're a fan of it, whether or not it fully takes off in the automotive world, I can almost guarantee you that it's going to take off in the sports and recreation world and in the marine world. That's going to be almost a given. If they flatline on the automotive side, we're definitely going to see this happen in the marine industry and in the recreation industry shortly. And that'll bring me to another thing that, some of you guys are probably going to ask, well, why don't you do ATVs? Why don't you do snowmobiles? Been there, done that. And to be perfectly honest with you, unless you're a dealer, it's very hard to stay competitive and to make money on that, because for whatever reason, I don't know why, somebody will go out and buy a $15,000, $20,000 sled, but if you ding them $200 for a service, you're the worst person ever. So don't really know the whole, snowmobiling, ATV scene. I don't get it. They'll go spend thousands of dollars on accessories, spend thousands of dollars on their unit, but the minute they need an oil change and it costs $100 just for the oil, they're freaking out at you. So, I mean, been there, done that. I'm done dealing with that. And, the money is basically to be made in the marine industry. Unless you're a dealer with ATVs, side-by-side snowmobiles, it's not really worth it, basically. And to be honest, I bet you those dealers, for the most part, and there's probably some of them that make really good money, most dealers, for the most part, that deal with low volume but are still dealers and, do servicing and whatever else, if anything, they're breaking even. And, it might just be something that mitigates their loss in order to keep their technicians, busy during the winter. But again, we have technicians that don't want to work on snowmobiles, don't want to work on ATVs, and for just reasons. ATVs always come in, full of mud, broken, and everything else, and you're covered in mud basically by the time you're working on it. And snowmobiles always come in frozen solid blocks of ice, and you got to thaw them out, and you're lugging around, these 1,000-pound machines with a wheel cart or whatever else, and you're throwing your back out. And a lot of guys in the industry are, hurting units. And I'm one of them, where, again, in the winter with the cold and the damp and everything else, it hurts the body. And guys just don't want to do that anymore, right? And there's getting to be fewer and fewer of us, so guys are getting very picky on what they work on and when they work on it and what have you. So, it's more than just putting up an ad, saying that we're hiring technicians and everybody wants to be a boat mechanic because they all think that, you spend your days out on the water boating around. Well, that's further from the truth. I mean, often whenever you're out there boating, chances are is you're testing a boat that could break down on you at any given time, or the customer's not sure what they're talking about, so you got to take this thing for a drive in hopes that you're going to make it back to shore and not have to paddle. And if you are out on the water, chances are it's like a 40-degree day, there's no wind, and you're sweating your butt off, no word of a lie. So ideally, if you're working in the shop, that's kind of probably maybe the best deal ever. So anyways, a little bit of insight into the industry, and I don't want this to be, a very long video, but it's probably going to be here again. But yeah, that's why, we don't operate that much in the winter. That's why that's why we operate the way we operate, basically. And, it's unfortunate. It would be nice maybe to operate 12 months out of the year like they do southern states and whatnot. But to be honest, we do make good money for storage and for shrink wrapping and for winterizing, I'm not sure in the lower states or in the warmer climates if you would get that. It would probably be a slower pace 12 months out of the year, and maybe not make the margins unless you're a dealer, really, because you have 12 months out of the year, you're doing more repairs, you're not doing winterizing, you don't have your spring startup, you don't have all these 2 months of crunch time where the income's really, really good. So not really sure if anybody out there in the marine industry who is watching this, I'd be interested to know and what are your margins, how is the business operating, in a place where 12 months out of the year it's go, 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 or that people can boat, I guess, versus, 5 months out of the year. I know when I go down to the States, so North Carolina, I guess, would be the best example. When you're on the lakes, there's boathouses, there's everything, right? But a lot of boats are just tied up. The recreational boating really doesn't happen until it warms up quite a bit. But there's always the fishermen, right? So, if you just bring your boat up to the dock in, say, December and, put it on your boat lift and take it out of the water, and that's it. You don't do anything to it. And then, April rolls back around and the weather's nice enough, you put the boat back in the water and away you go. There's no winterizing cost, there's no shrink wrapping cost. There's no real maintenance cost other than your oil changes and, maybe a seasonal maintenance. I'm not really sure what people do. So, but anyways, that's, us in a nutshell. Southeastern Ontario, where winter is a reality and seems to suck. And anyways, curious to know what you guys think, experiences and whatever have you. No, if you're thinking it right now, I'm not going snow plowing. That's just another whole money lost venture. It seems everybody up here in their age has a truck with a plow on it, or a tractor with a blade, or a snowblower or something. And I mean, honestly, my grandfather, I remember growing up and going plowing with my grandfather, and he would plow the yard, he'd drop the blade and do a small little laneway for $20. And I mean, we're talking early 90s, late 80s, okay? When he did this, $20, okay? And $20 back then was, okay money. But I remember him always saying about the competitiveness back then, with, everybody knocking you down, Jewing you down, I'll do it for 10 or do it for 15 or whatever else. That still happens today. People still call you up, flag you down on the side of the road. Hey, can you, scrape my yard for $20? No, absolutely not. First of all, is $20 to drop your blade, the risk in doing that is horrendous. I mean, if somebody were to rear end me, if I were to accidentally run over, I don't know, a well in their yard, if I were to accidentally scrape up their grass, crack their driveway, chew up a piece of asphalt that was loose or what have you, the ramifications of that, they could turn that around on you and basically sue you. And if I don't have commercial plow insurance, I'm up poo creek, basically. Because, yeah, like we are so governed by insurance companies up here, it's not even funny. And that's a whole nother topic. And so basically, my insurance company knows that I have the truck, I have the blade on the truck, but they know that I plow the shop, and they know that I plow my own personal yard and my wife's business, basically. Those are the three places that I plow. That's it. I can go down to my grandparents, I can drop the blade there, do whatever. I can go down to my neighbors, as long as there's no money exchange, nothing like that. I'm doing it as a favor, I can do that. But the minute that I try to go out snow plowing, I need to have commercial plow insurance. It's a whole another rigmarole. And the fact that people are still thinking that you can drop the blade for $20, it's just a waste of time. It truly is. By the time you factor in insurance cost, fuel, your wear and tear on your blade, the wear and tear on your truck, essentially, if you're dropping the blade for $20, you are losing money. And if anybody that is out there willing to do it for $20, well, then, you know, have at it. But that's another reason why I don't snowplow. And I mean, to be honest, I get up at 3, 4, 5 in the morning to go fishing in the summer when it's warm. I am not getting up at 3, 4, 5 in the morning to go plow snow so that people can get out of their driveways and go to work. Not happening. When it's snowing, blowing, cold, and everything else, I am staying in my bed. So, anyways, I swear that humans should be able to hibernate. But anyways, that's another topic as well. So, this this video here is long enough. You know, just another one of me rambling and whatever else. So, you know, if you're sitting back in a snowy area and have nothing else better to do and you're watching the video, thanks a lot. Hit the thumbs up button. You know, I appreciate it. At least winter's good for something, you know, watching videos and giving us likes and subscribing and all that other good stuff. If you're in somewhere warm and enjoying it, well, you're lucky. I think my buddy texted me, I got 57 days before I get to do that. So, anyways, that's it for today. Just kind of a rant and a little bit of information in there. Take it for what you want. But hope you all have a good day, and thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.